Today's episode of The Completionist is proudly brought to you by Origin PC and the Big O. Tune in later on in the episode to find out more. 5 syllables, then 7, then 5 more. Haikus might seem boring and limited at first, like poets are restraining themselves. But there is a freedom within this structure, and beauty in a deftly executed piece. Sometimes the structure is thrown out completely in favor of aesthetics. At first glance, I thought Ghost of Tsushima would be another open-world action game with a familiar structure, collectibles, story beats, and combat. But I had no idea that this game would completely subvert my expectations to become the most beautifully optimized completion experience for an open-world action game I have ever played. This game is not just a samurai power fantasy, but a playable myth-making machine. Hey everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. As time moves on and we arrive in August, it's that time on our Patreon to introduce a new game submission for the upcoming months. The next game, if you want to see me complete, category-wise, is from GameCube games. So if you want to vote, pick any GameCube game you want, and then we curate that list. You can head over to patreon.com/thecompletionist and join at the mini producer level. It's hard to believe, but like the changing of the seasons, the PS4 console generation is finally coming to an end. It's hard to say goodbye, so join me with style and grace as we complete Ghost of Tsushima.
Here comes a new challenger! Yes! Danger!
Ghost of Tsushima has had one of the most successful releases of any PS4 game. This game wears its influences right out in the open, and its success marks a turning point. It will always be remembered as one of the last great PS4 games. This is a pivotal moment when it comes to one culture exploring another in video games. Ghost of Tsushima is not the first time that a Western studio has explored Japanese culture, but it is the first time it's happened on this level, and this successfully. Developer Sucker Punch made something that was more than skin deep, and shows that putting in effort to make something feel authentic results in a game that is more than just a flash-in-a-pan success. It's the end of the 13th century, and the Mongol horde has conquered much of the world. Mongols have had their sights set on mainland Japan. First stop on this tour of destruction is the island of Tsushima, where Lord Shimura and 80 badass samurai make their stand against Khotan Khan. However, the Khan has spent years learning every tactic in the book and crushes the samurai resistance with relative ease. It's up to Lord Shimura's nephew Jin Sakai to gather survivors and wage a counterattack on the Mongol forces and push back against opportunistic bandits to save Tsushima and all of Japan. But will Jin uphold his family's traditions of honor and dignity, or defeat his enemies by whatever means necessary? So Sucker Punch went to every length to make Tsushima Island feel authentic to the time period. The developers sent teams to visit the island and even recorded ambient sounds like birdsong and wind to make things feel more real. They even consulted with dialect coaches to ensure that any kanji encountered on signs or in random writings would be authentic for the time period. What makes this all more significant is that this developer is not known for making grand historical epics. Sucker Punch's most well-known IPs are Infamous and Sly Cooper, so they definitely have experience in open world design and stealth mechanics. But Ghost of Tsushima is an entirely different kind of labor of love. Sucker Punch helped kick off the PS4 with Infamous Second Son, and are sending it off with Ghost of Tsushima, one of the last big PS4 exclusives. This game has been in development for years, but the idea from the beginning has always been to transport people back to feudal Japan. Even when showing off a trailer in 2017, the developers made a point to note that every location shown in the trailer could be visited in the game. Sucker Punch wanted people playing this game to feel like they were living out their wildest samurai fantasies. Now, it was a big risk for this American studio to go super hard on a historical epic. It might seem like samurai content is a slam dunk, but there's always a chance of failure. Instead, Ghost of Tsushima became the PS4's fastest selling original IP and has been garnering critical praise since its release. This game's success shows that when a subject is approached with passion, respect, and a willingness to really embrace your subject matter, it doesn't matter who develops it. Sucker Punch wanted to find the balance between an immersive historical world and seamless, empowering combat. Samurai are known for being legendary warriors, so mastering Jin's many different sword stances, combat techniques, and weapon skill trees is key to dominating his enemies. The island of Tsushima is enormous and densely packed with points of interest. This game draws heavy inspiration from games like The Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption in its open world design, but this game has something those others don't: the undeniable cool factor of the medieval samurai aesthetic. It really feels like the ninja Assassin's Creed that fans of the genre have been wanting since that series' inception. This colors everything else in the game and makes completing Ghost of Tsushima feel new, even when the gameplay starts off similar to other games of its type. Players will wander from waypoint to waypoint, finding collectibles, liberating forts, and completing side quests to earn vanity gear and other baubles. But the style is utterly captivating and inviting. It's easy to see how this game could have gone wrong. Instead, it's a hit, and one of the most polished completion experiences of any open world game. Today's episode of The Completionist is proudly brought to you by Origin PC and the Big O. This is the Origin PC Big O, an absolute juggernaut of a PC machine. This custom build features an AMD Ryzen 9 3950X CPU, an 11GB NVIDIA RTX GeForce 2080 Ti, an ASRock X 570M Pro 4 motherboard, liquid cooling on both the PC side and the PS4 Pro side. What does that mean? I got a PS4 in this thing and it's tight! Ghost of Tsushima looks incredible on the PS4 Pro, and this episode was recorded using the PS4 Pro inside of the Origin PC Big O. Not to mention, this bad boy has my own logo on it, so what's not to love? So customize your Origin PC desktop or laptop today, and hey, while you're at it, on your PC builds, you can add a Samsung 870 QVO SSD to your Origin PC for large SSD storage. The long and short of it, folks, Origin PC has got your back. If you want to support the show and you want to help us out today, head over to originpc.com right now and build your dream PC today. And don't forget to use our special referral link in the box down below. Honor, tradition, loyalty. The tenets of the Samurai Code have been set down by generations of warriors to define a way of living and dying. Players both embody Jin Sakai's ideals and rebel against them. I thought I had the story and gameplay pegged from the moment the samurai on Komodo Beach unsheathed their swords in the opening cutscene, but this game is built around subverting expectations. Ghost of Tsushima makes the entire genre feel fresh by being one of the most beautiful, seamlessly optimized completion experiences of all time. I was excited to play this game, but also skeptical. I was fully expecting another one of those open world games where the world is basically an endless series of checklists. But then, this happened. My jaw was on the floor. It was such a beautiful moment that it literally took my breath away for a second. Late-stage console games tend to push performance. Developers have figured out the technology and know how to wring the most out of the system. I expect games to look and feel a certain way when a system is on its way out. And yet, something about the wind at his back, the swell of the music, the promise of adventure, it struck me. I didn't expect the combat to be as deep as it is, or as genuinely fun. I know going in, there would be swordplay and some kind of stealth component. Stealth is certainly a factor, but the block and parry style fighting with different stances took me by surprise. It's not Sekiro or Nioh, but something in between. It feels slick and empowering, much more empowering than I anticipated. I had rapidly become addicted to the incredible feeling of utterly destroying a Mongol patrol or bandit camp. Fighting is brutal and quick. Instead of drawn-out encounters, fights are fast, with many enemies being cut down in just 2 or 3 strikes. It's a trope in some samurai stories that 1 slash equals 1 kill, but this game really takes that concept to heart, and it feels unbelievably awesome. This has been especially fleshed out with the amazing lethal difficulty that was patched in about a week and a half after the game released. Jin's attacks deal more damage, but attacks against him are also more deadly, making every encounter feel like a real challenge. Yet despite the difficulty, these encounters are folded seamlessly into the world and never distract from the completion process. One of the things that makes combat feel so dynamic and empowering is the stance system. Every enemy in the game is weak to one of Jin's 4 sword stances: stone, water, wind, and moon. Each of these stances is more effective against a different type of enemy. Without mastering these stances, it's impossible to clear out Mongol camps and complete combat encounters, but Ghost of Tsushima makes it feel so great to do so. I was also surprised by the characters in this game. Jin himself initially struck me as a kind of one-note hero type character, a man who places his honor above all else. It kind of reminded me of a certain exiled prince.
That's rough, buddy.
But his conflicted feelings about how he has to fight dirty to take back his homeland are striking. The cutscenes depict a man who is genuinely remorseful and having to turn his back on everything he grew up knowing to be true. It's a mature topic, but since players can approach the plot at their leisure between completing other side quests, it never gets in the way of the seamless feeling of completing this game. One of the first things that happens in the game flipped my expectations completely. Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura, sends one of his generals to break the spirits of the Mongols by challenging one of their best fighters to one-on-one combat. Instead of a fair fight, he's instantly set on fire and beheaded in a moment that is simultaneously hilarious and horrifying. Instead of an epic duel, it's a misfire and shows what Jin's up against. I love that I had that rug pulled out from underneath me right from the very top. I didn't expect there to be so many shades of gray in this game. The surprising depth of the characters made me eager to complete the main story and side quests of Jin's allies. I figured I'd have to engage in the standard video game missions like rescuing kidnapped NPCs or tracking down a murderer, but I never thought I'd see a lady thief teach me more efficient ways to murder people as she dissed Jin's entire moral code. Yuna felt like one of the most realistically drawn characters in the game, and I really appreciated her harsh wisdom even as she surprised me with her bluntness. Most of the characters have unexpected layers to them. Jin has a childhood rival who survived the Mongol massacre, Ryuzo. I figured it would be easy to convince him to join the fight against the enemy, but his tale is much darker and sadder than I thought it would be. Ghost of Tsushima is happy to upend tropes, and the writers take great care to keep players engaged all the way to the very end of all 61 tales and 7 mythic tales. It's impressive that this game pays just as much attention to the smaller scale quests as the more epic main quests and mythic tales. It would be easy for Jin to write off the plights of the peasants on the island, but they're all going through struggles too. Jin tries his best to save the family of a nobleman, only to witness the full depravity of desperate men. He sees tenderness at the hands of a community who take in a fake samurai. These tales are short, sweet, and easy to complete, so much so that I didn't mind how many of them there were. Aside from the story, the best thing about this game is how much it utterly rewrites the rules of traversing a big open world. Players have grown accustomed to the look and feel of an open world game, including how to navigate one. Sucker Punch wanted to not just do better, but to completely tear up the rulebook. Everything is designed to be as seamless and cinematic as possible, and it works pretty flawlessly. Players are given incredible freedom to travel from the very beginning. To complete this game, players must see almost every inch of the island. There are dozens of collectibles to find and shrines to visit. Many of these lead to cosmetic items, like the awesome sword kits found at the Pillars of Honor. Most shrines lead to charms, which are equipable items that help with exploration or combat and loot, which Jin uses to upgrade his weapons and other items. It's an intimidating list for sure, but exploration in Ghost of Tsushima is easy because it's always beautiful and never frustrating. This game has no minimap. There's barely even a heads-up display when you're exploring. If you want to, you can find practically every side quest and collectible with just the cues available on screen. This feels amazing. A black plume of smoke leads to a Mongol logging camp. An extremely cute fox can be followed to an Inari shrine, which unlocks slots for equipable charms. And then Jin can pet the fox. A golden bird crosses Jin's path, and tracking it might lead to a gate which points to the top of a mountain and a new equipable charm. Instead of breaking immersion by pressing pause every 5 seconds, players are gently drawn in to Sucker Punch's gorgeous world. Now, completing games like this can be heartbreakingly hard. Sometimes the tedium of crisscrossing the map over and over some tiny collectibles ruins what is an otherwise perfect experience. But Ghost of Tsushima is extremely completionist friendly. One piece of upgradable equipment, the Traveler's Gear, should just flat out be called Gerard's outfit because it's basically a collectible tracker that makes the controller rumble when players are near collectible artifacts. It's indisputably wonderful. The fact that you don't have to pause to pick up loot and other collectibles is such a small thing, but it's a game changer. Jin doesn't have an animation to stop and pick up a flower or skin a boar. The looting is instant. And if he's riding his horse, which I named Sora, shoutouts to my boy over at Kingdom Hearts, he doesn't have to get off the horse to collect stuff. You can just gallop past whatever the thing is and absorb it into your body. I don't care if that isn't historically accurate. Every game where a character rides a horse and collects things should have this feature. And speaking of that horse, this might be the open world game that solves that particular transportation problem. Your horse is summoned instantly when you call it, right to your side. It seems like maybe it shouldn't be worth mentioning, but it's just one more thing that I expected to be lame that is actually wonderful. This game straight up tells you when upgrades are available. Never having to wonder when sword or armor upgrades are available is a boon to completionists. The game saves players the effort by having a pop-up appear when new upgrades are available. It feels incredibly streamlined. The fact that rewards for the main mission, side quests, and other points of interest are always laid out is yet another game changer. Even with the dozens of side quests and hundreds of collectibles, it never feels like you're wandering around for no reason because you always know what you're working towards. Navigation features shouldn't feel like game-changing components here, but they are, precisely because no other game of this size takes the steps to be this player friendly. The guiding wind is the most immersion friendly thing in this game. Jin isn't carrying a compass, and the UI has no obvious indicators of where to go next. But with the simple swipe of the touchpad, Jin can follow the wind to his next destination. His father's spirit is his guiding force, and it's just one more immersive way to keep players out of the pause menu. It's seamless and a beautiful way to navigate Tsushima. This game also builds in moments of self-reflection and even self-expression. Jin can find natural hot springs dotting the landscape where he will take a soak. And just think, these brief moments are a literal pause in the action. They are a reminder to take a minute to yourself every now and then. Completing a game like this can be one thing after the next, and a moment of pause is just the thing to break up the tedium. Of course, the mechanical benefit of a permanent health boost is nice too. Jin can find places to sit and compose a haiku based on his surroundings. It's beautiful and a counterpoint to the violence that Jin must confront to save his community. It's just one more way Ghost of Tsushima represents a new way of looking at completion. This game is not only about completing increasingly difficult combat encounters and stripping the island of anything that sparkles, it's also about reflecting and taking a moment to appreciate your surroundings. There's even a trophy attached to editing a photo in the robust photo mode. Yet one more way this game wants players to make their experience feel special. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't stick to the rigidly defined formula of so many games that came before. The checklist may seem never-ending, but it is easier to do and more enjoyable than ever before due to Sucker Punch doing their best to keep players immersed. Ghost of Tsushima is deeply entrenched in the structure of an open-world action game, but by being so distinct in its style and overhauling navigation, it finds freedom within the structure. But I don't mean that this game is easy, just painless. Because as enemies I faced grew more cunning and more powerful, and the side quests more expansive, Ghost of Tsushima always left me feeling empowered. Beauty does not always equal authenticity. Ghost of Tsushima has incredibly detailed and gorgeous environments, but it plays fast and loose with historical accuracy. But this is not a bad thing. If anything, this game's real strength is in showcasing the myth of the samurai as opposed to their actuality. As much as Ghost of Tsushima is filled with environmental accuracy, it is even more excellent at depicting myths. This game is full of themes of storytelling and myth-making, and lets players step into the role of a legend. The most resonant tall tales have a ring of truth to them. Emotional truth is more important than facts and figures that can be nitpicked. Sucker Punch went to great lengths to recreate the island of Tsushima, a real place, as it might have looked 700 years ago. But this authenticity can only go so far. This game has plenty of quibbles to, actually about. Now, I'm not a scholar of medieval Japan by any means, but even I noticed some anachronisms in this game. However, a nitpicking attitude is missing the point. Pointing out that the Bushido Code in this game is based on stereotypes is like saying Saving Private Ryan is a bad film because the paratroopers wore black boots when they weren't issued until later. Ghost of Tsushima lets players inhabit a true warrior poet. Historical accuracy be damned. Ghost of Tsushima acknowledges that you're basically playing a legend and building a folktale. Take the Heavenly Strike mythic tale, an early side quest that teaches Jin a powerful mythical sword art. In a beautiful ink-drawn introduction, Jin learns about a secret sword technique. Passed down for generations, this move can cut down enemies as quick as lightning. A cruel swordsman named Koga is seeking to learn the technique for himself and use the unrest of the Mongol attack as an opportunity to do whatever he wants. Jin wants to stop him and tracks Koga down to an old dueling ring during a rainstorm. What follows is a sword fight that feels like it's being told to you by a master storyteller. The difference being that I played it. Lightning crashed and wind roared all around me as I parried, countered, and finally defeated my foe. It was insanely epic and yes, cinematic. It feels like I was adding to my own legend as I completed this tale. There are several duels like this throughout the game, and every single one of them feels as epic as this. The power of storytelling infuses so many mechanics in this game. Over the course of the game, as Jin embraces fear as a weapon like some kind of ninja Batman, and yes, I know about the ninja Batman movie, enemies can become terrified, stumbling over themselves as they fled from my wrath. It made me feel like my legend had been spreading over the island, and that enemies who faced me were aware of how dangerous my very presence was. Jin Sakai is representative of all samurai to the people on Tsushima. When stories of the Ghost, a dishonorable killer who stalks his enemies from the shadows, emerge, Jin's allies are shaken. The samurai in this game are revered and respected, paragons of justice and honor. So when Jin rejects his upbringing and training in favor of a darker path, it's genuinely disturbing to the people who know him best. As tales of Jin's exploits spread across the 3 regions of the island, the reputation of the samurai are affected. By the time I reached the 3rd region of the island in the 3rd act, Jin was more than a mighty warrior. He has filled out so many different skill trees and acquired a range of devious weapons. As awesome as his stance-based sword combat is, the Mongols are completely unprepared for the more ninja-like approach. It feels amazing to clear as many enemies as possible stealthily, and then to utterly dominate any remaining foes in direct combat. There is a surprise fit stance that unlocks about halfway through this game that perfectly encapsulates the legend and terror that Jin inspires. The Ghost stance is kind of like Spartan Rage in the latest God of War, where Jin can fly into a fury and rip through enemies after building up a certain amount of kills without getting hurt. It's cinematic and scary, and a great synthesis of Jin's growing frustration at fighting the Mongols. Sucker Punch made every effort for fights to look and feel like epic stories. Kurosawa mode is an entire visual style that makes the game look like the legendary filmmaker's samurai epics. For a game that weaves myth-making seamlessly throughout the gameplay, paying tribute to Kurosawa looks and feels extremely cool. Every combat encounter, especially towards the later parts of the game, feels epic in the extreme. Few other games made me feel as genuinely badass as this one did, mostly due to the instantly iconic standoff mechanic, which lets Jin absolutely wreck most enemies with a single slash. The beautiful masks and armor combined with the terrified bloodstained enemies scattering all over the battlefield made me feel like I was the monster in a horror story. And for what it's worth, it's very empowering. Samurai warriors, as popularly described, have always been mythical. Like the Knights of the Round Table, they probably didn't exist like they do in our imaginations. But Ghost of Tsushima is the closest I've ever been to playing a myth. It's an awesome feeling and a wonderfully unique one. After doing everything I could to save Jin's friends and family and scouring Tsushima for collectibles, I felt like I'd created a whole book's worth of legends and stories. Ghost of Tsushima does an incredible job of guiding players to collectibles and upgrades, and I loved seeing all the cosmetic options available to me. Even though I didn't have to, I wanted to find everything in this game. Getting the Platinum Trophy in this game didn't require me to find 100% of the collectibles. In fact, it's a pretty easy Platinum Trophy to earn considering how gigantic the game is. But I still found myself wanting to explore everywhere I could and find every lost collectible. I just wanted to get lost in this world. The rewards for finding everything are mostly cosmetic, and that was totally fine by me. I wanted to see every cool armor variation, every cool color scheme. Almost every combination of hat, mask, and armor looks epic and helps make the excellent photo mode look even better. But that being said, I scoured every last nook and cranny of Tsushima Island. I found every different cosmetic change for my armor, unlocked every single node on the skill tree, found every last banner, artifact record, and singing cricket. And unfortunately, there isn't a tangible reward for all of that. But I'm not even that mad that a lot of the rewards are just more experience points or loot to upgradable equipment. Because by the time I had found everything in this game, I had become what the game wanted me to be, the defender of the island, the real guardian spirit of Tsushima. When I completed Ghost of Tsushima, there were 61 side quests and 7 mythic tales completed. Some were more memorable than others, but all of them made me feel like I was embodying a force of nature. 190 collectibles found, breaking down into 80 banners, 40 records, 20 singing crickets, and 50 artifacts. These are the only things I feel like they're there just to collect, since they don't really add anything beyond stuff to find. 25 duels fought and won, my favorite thing in the game, hands down. 65 hours of total playtime, and one warrior who tried to find a balance between what was expected of him and what he knew in his heart was best. I'm still trying to figure that one out. You know, I've been reflecting lately on what the end of a console life cycle means, right? And not just for the games industry, but for myself. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the best examples of what a game can do when it's incredibly laser focused on what it wants to do from the very beginning. Yes, there are millions of things to do, but the aesthetic in this game is so precise and so specific that I really believe that Sucker Punch did their best to provide one of the best gaming experiences on the PS4. Now, I didn't have to go full completion to get that platinum, but I wanted to. And I think that notion alone gives me such a wonderful feeling when it comes to my job. There's so many games that come and go each week with how I complete things here. And when I play a brand new game like Ghost of Tsushima, and it makes me want to go the extra mile to get everything, you know that we've got something special on our hands. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of, you guessed it, complete it.
Complete it!